Hey, it's Kara, your host. I'm here today because I'm often asked, what should I read next? Or what is your all time favorite book? And that is why I created this list. This list isn't a declaration of the greatest books of all time. Rather, it's a collection of the stories I can't stop thinking about, the ones I've recommended more times than I can count, and that continue to live rent free in my head. Whether you're looking for your next unforgettable read, or just want to see what books have shaped my reading life, I hope this guide of 25 books inspires you to discover a new favorite. Head on over to the link in the show notes or to bookishflights.com/read/25 books. Today's episode is brought to you by Baker Bookhouse. Make sure you stay tuned to the end for their Thrills and Chills book flight and how to get 30% off. Hi, I'm Kara Infante, and this is Bookish Flights. In each episode, I chat with one bookish guest as we take some time to sample and savor the pairing recommendations from their bookish flight. We hope to give you suggestions to cultivate your TBR list and nurture your leisure time through books. In today's episode, I am chatting with SK Horton. SK is a physician by day and reading obsessed by night. She lives in sunny Arizona with her husband and 2 daughters, where you might find her planning the next great family vacation, experimenting with a new recipe, or spending way too much on fancy coffee and tea. She loves connecting with her readers, and we're here today to discuss her series, Heir of Earth and Sky. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Yes. Well, I feel like you are so much more than this bio. So can you tell us a little bit about who you are?
All right. So, like the bio says, I do have 2 girls. They're teenagers now. So, they are kind of the age of reading my young adult novels. So, that's really fun, them and their friends. And I am a physician. I do work full time. I'm a radiologist.
Okay.
So, I'm frequently in a dark room. And when I'm not in a dark room, I love being in a dark room reading my Kindle. So it kind of works out that way. So I do try and see the sun sometimes, but Arizona is pretty good for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I don't know if we've had this conversation that I'm a physical therapist by trade. So we like,
Yes, I knew that.
okay,
That's
I was
great.
like, I feel like radiology, we work hand in hand a lot.
Yes, exactly, exactly. I send you people probably.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I also have to laugh because I have like a reading cave, I call it. I love to read by just like this little like clipped on reading light. And my husband's like, don't you want the light on? I'm like, no, I love the dark with just the lit up book. Like there's something about that.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. And I don't have a lot of time during the day, and so I'm often reading at night, either when I have insomnia or I read when I work evenings or nights. If it's the last thing I did is read X-rays, then I will read them all night long in my sleep. And so I absolutely, it's the weirdest thing. I absolutely will have to read something else. Otherwise, I'll be working all night answering phone calls. Yeah,
Yeah.
so it works out.
I'm thinking like cleansing the palate comes to mind, but it's like cleansing the mind.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
So, well, like you said, your daughters are now reading YA. Did you happen to write this series for them?
I did, well, mostly. I started out, I really wanted something creative, and I'm not very artsy, I don't have that talent. I don't really have musical talent either, and I just really love books. And I thought, well, I'll just try and write a book. Of course, it's
Yeah.
so easy, right? So it kind of started out as a hobby when they were young, and so they did influence me. But as I started really getting much closer to the publishing stage, they were older, and I was like, this book is for them. Like this is for their age. This is what I want, the type of book that I want their friends to reading. So I do often say that I wrote it for them because by the end, I really had them in mind as
Yeah.
my target.
And I have had so many authors come on and say, like, I write the books that I want to read. And I love this, like, kind of next step of like, I'm writing the books I want my daughters to read.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's fun.
Absolutely.
Well, for listeners that maybe have not gotten to pick up this series yet, can you tell them a little bit about it?
Okay, so The Concealed is a Portal romantasy. It's about Kate, who travels to England to go to college. And once there, she's from America. Once there, some people start stalking her. And then these two boys, that are, of course, cute, right? They start protecting her, kind of help her out. And then it escalates enough where they end up telling her that she's not actually from this world. She's from this other land, and she was hidden in America as a baby because she was prophesied to both bring these two rival kingdoms together that the boys are from and defeat their common enemy. So eventually she's convinced and goes through the portal. And once there, she's got to figure out what kind of powers she has. She doesn't understand how she's going to save anyone because she doesn't have any. And then she's got to figure out who she can trust because there's a lot of people that have their own agenda. It's set kind of in almost like a English type setting. 100, years ago is where I got some of the idea, and it's explained why that is in the
Sure.
book as well. But was reading a lot of Regency romance at the time, so you can probably see some of those similarities there. But there's balls and there's battles and there's dragons, and it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah. I loved it because it's such a unique take on a coming of age story, right? Like it's a whole other twist to just her coming of age and like going to college in this foreign country at that point, right? It really turns out to be foreign land, but it's just such a unique twist on that type of story.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really fun. I really wanted to do a relatable female main character, and I did think about my daughters who are not like the most outdoorsy. Maybe they are sporty, sure, but I often kind of compare it to the Hunger Games and Katniss is, she's so great at walking silently in the forest and shooting these arrows. But really, Kate is more like PETA. She doesn't know how to do these things, right? She's your relatable girl. And I wanted people to have that. I feel like right now it's very popular to have these stabby females that know how to do everything, which I think is cool and it's girl power
Yeah.
too. But I wanted that story arc to see that, hey, you're just kind of, a normal girl who can do something extraordinary.
Yeah. And I feel like as a parent, we are always trying to figure out ways to teach our children like these big life concepts, right? And what a way to do this through this book and the series that you've given them.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
It's been really fun.
have they both read it yet?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
they both read it. My older daughter, she's a little bit less of a reader, and she also kind of prefers contemporary, but she has read them. And then my younger daughter, she's all over it. And in fact, for The Capture, the second book, she was one of my beta readers, and I would bounce a lot of ideas off her.
I love
And
that.
she was actually very helpful.
Is she one of your biggest promoters as well?
She's a pretty big promoter, yeah. She's 14 now, but I went and talked to her middle school a few times and gave them writing lessons and things like that. And there was essentially like a little fan club there for me, which is the sweetest thing ever. And they're coming up and talking to her, trying to get information about the next book and that kind of thing, which I think is hilarious.
Yeah, my son is always, my oldest one is the only one that goes to school. My younger two, I homeschool them right now. We have like a hybrid situation going on, but he will come home quite often and be like, "Oh, so and so such a reader and they want to come on your show." And he's told all the teachers about it, which is so, it's just so sweet. So, and they
Yes,
figured out how to
absolutely.
get the podcast on our TV. And so I'll calm down sometimes and I hear my voice and I'm like, what is, and they're like, oh yeah, we figured out how to get it on the TV. So
Yeah, I know. It is kind of strange having these two multiple lives. Yes.
yeah, absolutely. Well, what do you hope for readers? What do you hope they'll take away from this story when they read it?
I hope that they will take away that no matter, where you start out, you work hard, you persevere, that you can come out in the end and to trust yourself. Kate deals with anxiety and panic attacks, and she's able to navigate those through the story as well. Um, I set out just to have an escapist fun read. That was
Yeah.
really my primary goal. And so I want people to take away a really fun story and maybe a few lessons along the way that are tucked in there.
Yeah. Well, speaking of lessons, what did you learn about yourself through writing?
I guess I learned kind of the same thing that I was just saying that I wanted to write an escapist read and I wanted to just have fun writing. And I learned that I had something to say,
Yeah.
that every book you have your own paradigm and your own thoughts. I realized that I wanted this relatable female, and I realized that I wanted to talk about the peace between the kingdoms and how that works. And it is just kind of interesting how your own ideas end up coming out in your book when you really think, hey, I just want to write a fun story, but then it started to be more,
Yeah.
and I am proud of that now.
Yeah, it gave you a voice behind that,
Hmm.
which is great. I
Exactly.
I mean, I'm not going to diminish how hard it is to write a book, but I have never done it. But I love your story of like, I work full time and I wanted to go into this to have fun and create an escapist read. And I'm not diminishing all the hard work you did, but I feel like that makes it seem like it might be attainable for the average person to do something like this. Because I
Yeah,
think,
I mean, absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. I mean, I guess I should tell you that it took me 10 years from the beginning to get published.
yeah,
It was a really long path, to find a publisher and all that kind of thing. And some of it started out as a hobby and I was really slow.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, anyone can, take the time and learn craft and just write. And I went to conferences and I have a writing group. It now meets at my house and they're amazing and we all help each other. And yeah, it does take a little bit of time. My advice is to not rush it for people who
yeah.
get really excited. I mean, sure, we'll get the story out, but let's make sure that we know, but it's totally true. I mean, if someone wants to write, then absolutely do it.
Yeah, I think for me, it's that authors, I don't really consume other media. Like, I don't watch TV or movies. I mean, I do, but like very minimal. And so, authors to me are like the celebrities. And so, I think that's why to me it seems like so far of like a task to be able to do because they're my celebrities.
I guess so. I don't, I don't know. I mean, I feel that way too. I mean, I feel that way about authors that I admire. I'm like, they're my celebrities too. So I see what you're saying. Yeah. I mean, I probably respect an author a lot more. Like, I would be more excited to meet certain authors than I would actors. So I get that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing all that and giving maybe us little people over here, not little, that's not the right word,
No, not
like
little.
this hope that it is possible. Because I mean, the other part of it, I think, as moms, and I'm sure you struggled with this because you were working full time, you had kids, and you have so little free time at certain stages of parenting that it's like when I have free time, like it's this constant struggle of like, what should I be doing with this small bit of free time that I do have?
Yeah, it's totally true. And it's a balance, and there's seasons in life. And I think that that is part of the reason why it did take me a long time. And once my kids got a little bit older, it became easier. But that is one of the lessons that I want them to learn is, hey, you can be a doctor, but you know what? You can also be a writer, or you can also be an artist, or whatever that is. And I think that's a great lesson for everyone. You don't have to be pigeonholed forever into one thing. You can do more than one.
Yeah. And I think you need an outlet. So even if that's your profession, having some type of outlet, and whether that is creatively or sports or whatever that may be, having an outlet's important too.
True. I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. And finding that, and well, back to your word, finding balance. And maybe that's, and it's just, I guess it's where you choose to spend your time and whether,
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't watch a ton of TV.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my next question was going to be, how in your busyness do you find time to read and do it all?
So audiobooks, I think, is a pretty common answer, and
Yeah.
that's really the key for me to read very much. And then I read, like I said, in the middle of the night when I have insomnia, or which is not that infrequent actually, or when I have been reading films when I've been working because I work a variety of hours, and sometimes I'll
Sure.
work till midnight or 1 in the morning or something, and then I'll go to bed, and that's when I'll do it. But yeah, the audiobooks are just so key, and I love them. I,
Yeah.
I, I love hearing it come to life.
Yeah. Absolutely. Your books actually recently came to audiobooks as well.
I love my narrators so much. Yes, they're amazing. Amanda Lee Cobb and Joe Jameson did the second one, and just Amanda Lee Cobb's in the Concealed. And yeah, it's a pretty special experience to hear your characters come to life from real real actors.
Yeah,
Better
I
than
was going to
how
ask
I'm.
if it changed the story for you at all, but you kind of answered that.
Yeah, I mean, I think all authors get imposter syndrome sometimes, and sometimes I'll read someone else's book and I'll be like, oh my gosh, that's so good. I will never make it. And you know what I do? I turn on my audiobook because they make my words sound 10 times better, I think. And so I'm like, oh, I'll just turn them on for a few minutes and then I'll feel better. So yeah, it's special.
Yeah. And I think that's the important part, right? Is like taking a step back to be like, I did that. And that's amazing, and like reminding yourself how far you've come in this journey too.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Well, what genres of books do you enjoy reading?
So I am a mood reader for sure. I do, of course, read a lot within my own genre of YA fantasy or just YA in general. But recently, especially when I've been drafting this last third book, I've really kind of needed a break from fantasy just
Yeah.
because I just felt so immersed in it, and I needed something else. So I enjoy romance, a rom-com, a light thriller, nothing too heavy. And then I usually read a couple of more literary fiction or listen to a year. And for the story, but also I really enjoy listening for the craft to hear some of these people that, oh, she's an NYU professor and she did it this way, and I'm going to take notes on that. Or she broke this rule and it gives me permission to break it too sometimes, type of thing. So I enjoy that as well.
Yeah, I think I don't listen. I've been thinking about this recently to listen or read a ton of literary fiction either. And I think because it is so lyrical and I do a lot of audiobooks, and in my mind, I feel like that type of book I need to read on the page to really get the most out of it. Because otherwise, I kind of gloss over it sometimes while I'm on the like listening to it.
For some reason, I guess it's just because how I must be more
Yeah.
an audio learner. I love to hear a really little lyrical story rather than read it, because I think
Okay.
I have a tendency to read very quickly and gloss over it. So that's interesting, the two different ways we absorb.
Yeah, I actually really love that perspective. And I'm not a fast reader by the page. I know that people probably think like when you read books all the time and you have a podcast about books, but on the page, I'm not a fast reader, but probably because I try to read at night and I'm falling asleep in 5 minutes too. So it just takes a really
Yeah, that
long
definitely
time to
happens.
get through the book. So, but I do love reading on the page. I'm not nearly as quick.
Yeah, I hear you. I know, and it definitely depends on the book too, I
Yeah.
think. Is it really dense, lyrically wise or not?
Yeah. Well, you have brought a book flight with you today. Can you tell us how you chose these books?
All right, so young adult, I didn't really realize until I published that is actually about 80% read by adults. So it's supposed to be 12 to 18 is the industry standard for the age for young adult,
Okay.
but it's really read by a lot of adults, and particularly like more in the indie market. I'm with a smaller publisher that doesn't have a wide range with libraries and things like that. And so a lot of my readers are adults. And so, but at the same time, I really want to preserve, I'm writing it for my kids, right?
Yeah.
I want to preserve and have those books for them. So I chose books that are great for younger YA from 12-year-old all the way through adult, that I really feel like span and everyone can enjoy. So that's how I chose.
Yeah, I feel like there is that wide range, right? And my daughter today, we were at Barnes and Nobles and she was like looking at some, and I was like, I don't know that you're quite there yet. Like, I think let's go. She's only 7. She's like, let's go over to the
Ye-
middle grade section.
Yes,
Like, we're not
yes.
even close to young adult because I know there's that whole range of like some that kind of touch the edge, the other edge of it, right? Like the upper range on that.
Yes, for sure. And I think that they have been pushing that envelope because they've realized how many adult readers are reading YA. And so
Yeah.
the publishers and the self-published authors have been kind of pushing that envelope just because they're kind of giving what readers want and what might sell more.
Yeah.
So it becomes a little bit of a dilemma as a mom who had a precocious reader who was wanting to read at age 10,
Yeah.
like these white books. And so then you're like having to like, pre-read them all, which was fun too, but definitely can get frustrating.
Yeah. I've heard the term now as well, like new adult. So is that where they're kind of pushing, like maybe for this market of adult readers that want like a YA story, but it definitely has some more mature themes in it?
Yes, they are pushing that. So New Adult came out around like 10 years ago or so. And then it really started to end up being kind of looked down on by the traditional publishers as just sort of a young adult with um, sexy scenes,
Yeah.
really, is what it was. And so they said, we're not doing new adult. It has a bad name. We're not that they
Hmm.
didn't think it was quality enough, which I think they were wrong, right?
Yeah.
But the indies just kept doing it, and then it became more and more popular. And so now they're starting to accept it. But for years and years, they wouldn't
Interesting.
even accept the term new adult. They were like, nope, it's either adult or young adult. But then all the indie authors were like, but wait, there's all these young 20 somethings that want these books.
Yeah.
So it is becoming more accepted, and it's good, but it's also a little bit sad because I feel like young adults are starting to be a little left behind. So we're just gonna have to figure out where we fit in.
Yeah. There's room for us all.
I think so.
So, well, okay. So today's book flight, we have the lower YA range. What is the first book you brought today?
Okay, so the first book I brought was the Selection series by Kira Cass. And I read this book, a ways back because it's been out 10 or 12 years. And it's really kind of a classic YA throwback book that a lot of people have read. But I still really enjoy it. And I still think that it kind of epitomizes what a lot of people think of young adult. So it's dystopian. It's kind of like The Bachelor in a teen dystopian world, a little
Fun.
bit. And it's just a big page turner. I think everyone just was really addicted to it. It's just a really fun read. My kids have read it. I've read it. I think it's great. And then I also really enjoy that dystopian aspect because it does make people think about, well, what kind of world do I want to live in? What kind of world makes sense? And so there's a lot of those aspects of there's a caste system. And so it just makes people think as well. So that would,
Oh, see, I haven't read this, so I'm like, oh,
you've
you
not read the Selection series.
no. So I'm
Okay, yeah.
excited.
Yeah. It's super fun.
Okay, so that was the Selection series by Kira Cass. And what's the next book you brought today?
Okay, the next book I brought was by Jessica Townsend, and it is called Nevermore. And the first book is The Trials of Morrigan Crow.
Okay.
So this book is actually in middle grade, considered middle grade, upper middle grade, but they,
Okay.
they kind of cross over a little because middle grade will go up to 12 or 13 as well.
Sure.
So this book I read aloud to the family. We're big on family reading
I love it.
time. And we read it during COVID lockdown, and the subsequent books during COVID lockdown. And we read it as a family. And my husband and we were absolutely as addicted to this series as the kids were. We were like, we've got to find out what happens. And I I literally read till I was hoarse because the kids were like, you've got to
More.
read more, you've got to read more. And it wasn't even like bedtime. It was just, of course it was COVID lockdown. But
Yeah.
yeah, so it's a super big family favorite. So it's about Morgan, who is cursed, and she is supposedly like the unluckiest person ever. And she's supposed to die, and she's responsible for any bad luck that happens in her town. And she's actually supposed to die on her 11th birthday birthday, but this guy, Jupiter, comes in and saves her and kind of brings her to this other world. And he says that she's going to compete in these trials to become part of the Wondrous Society, which is this school for magic, essentially, that's very, very difficult to get into. And she
Okay.
lives in this magical hotel, and it's just the writing is just so fantastic and whimsical, and the rooms move and change, and it's just fantastic. I love it.
That does sound good. I'm like, oh, another one that you've introduced me
Yeah, and I
to.
think your kids are getting closer to that one. Yes.
Yeah, my oldest is going to be 10. So he's like definitely in that almost,
Yeah, and
Yeah.
there's a boy, her best friend's a boy, and he rides dragons. So I think it's good for boys and girls.
Yeah, which I also feel like is a struggle. Like when we just did a big road trip and I'm like, where, like, I try to get audiobooks for the kids and it's like, okay, for boys, girls, try to hit all the notes. I mean, when my oldest was younger, it was a bit easier, but now he has an opinion on what he wants to read. He can't just
How
go with
dare
what mom
you?
wants. So I'll have to put this one on the list. So that was the Nevermore series by Jessica Townsend. And what's the last
Yes.
one you brought today?
My last one is also another popular one. It's a little more recent. Once Upon a Broken Heart series by Stephanie Garber. It was a book talk type of book, and
Yeah.
you've probably seen it lots of places. But yeah, I think one of the reasons it's so popular is it really does absolutely bridge that 12-year-old can read it and adults just adore it.
Yeah.
And I think that it's difficult to do. And I think that it's a great series for that. I loved it. I listened to it on audio. My daughter read them, and we both were just kind of devouring them. For me, the writing's a little bit lyrical, which I really enjoyed. She loves to describe every little magical thing, every, bead on the dress and lace, and it's just so immersive. And I really respect her as a writer. She would be one of my I'd be so excited to meet her type of thing. So if you're out there, Stephanie Garber,
Yeah.
I'd love to meet you one day.
We need to manufacture all these like meet the author events.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I did a book event not very long ago, and there were some big authors there, and I was so excited, but I was signing books at my booth, and I was like, oh, well, okay, maybe next time I need to get someone else to do my signature or something.
Yeah, like basically, I haven't had when I've done a book fair, like have someone sit, like hang out with me, and we hang out most of the day. But then it's like, oh, you go wander the book fair, and then you come back, and then I'll go, and so that has worked out well. But I'm not signing anything, obviously, so I don't have that.
Yeah, exactly. I had a little bit of trouble with that. I was on a panel, and I guess people wanted, which was nice. It was nice to be
Yeah, that's
wanted.
exciting.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, so that was Once Upon a Broken Heart series by Stephanie Garber. How I love to end our show is with our bonus pairings, which are speed round of questions you can answer really quick. Are you a rereader?
I don't have time anymore.
Same.
So I used to be, but no.
I feel that. What is one book you've read that has changed your life?
So I don't think I've really had a single book.
Okay.
What did really change my trajectory is just being given a lot of books when I was a child and growing up in a household where people read. And so I didn't have a lot of neighborhood friends. And so summer was a lot of books.
Yeah.
And I think that, in the end, that made me become a writer. That made me want to pass on that love of reading to others. So it's hard to pinpoint one specific one, but it's just the combination of having books as a kid.
Yeah. You just maybe I had like an epiphany moment. I am an only child and I always read, like even as a kid. And I also feel like I was alone a lot. Like people are always like, weren't you bored as an only child? But I think maybe I spent it in books. And so I never realized like that it was boring because I never thought that. Like I had another world to live in.
Yeah, absolutely. You had your friends.
Yeah. My fictional friends.
Yes.
Where is your favorite place to read?
Bed, like I talked about
Yeah.
before, nighttime reading. Yes.
Closing out the day. And
Yes.
then lastly, what are you reading next?
So recently I listened to the audio of Finley Donovan is Killing It
Oh,
by
yeah.
El Casamano. And I just thought it was so fun and so refreshing, different from YA fantasy. So I think I'm gonna do the next audio for that. And it is Finley Donovan Knocks 'Em Dead. So that's
Nice.
my next one.
Is she an older protagonist, Finlay Donovan? Or I haven't read it yet. I've
She
seen it.
is, I think, late 20s, early
Oh,
30s.
okay. She's not. Okay.
Yeah, but she's a mom.
Okay.
Yeah. So she's got two little kids.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've seen them
Yeah.
everywhere. I just have not had the time to pick them up.
Yeah, I was so late. I saw them. I literally only seen it once, and for some reason, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get that book. It looks fun, and I checked it out from the library, the audio, and went to town, and super excited that I did. They're excellent.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for the suggestion. And thank you so much for coming on the show with me tonight. I know your time is precious. I appreciate all you've given me.
Thanks so much. I'm glad we got to kind of finally meet in person.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode today with SK Horton, including her book flight of lower YA books. We'd love to hear what other books you'd pair with this book flight. Today's episode was sponsored by Baker Book House. Spooky season calls for adrenaline-infused reads brimming with thrills and chills. From eerie mysteries to edge-of-your-seat suspense, here's a bit about each book before you order your next read from bakerbookhouse.com for 30% off and free shipping. In Girl Lost by Kate Angelo, Officer Luna Rosati and Special Agent Corbin King are at odds over their failed teenage romance, but they reunite on a mission and must put their past aside. When they encounter a kidnapping, missing bodies, and a murder, the secrets Corbin and Luna keep from one another are only the beginning of the threats they face. In On the Edge of Trust by Patricia Bradley, Scott Sinclair is a decorated FBI agent until a gunshot wound threatens the future of his career. When the crime podcaster Tori Mitchell's nephew is accused of murder, nothing can stop her from clearing his name. Tori and Scott's pursuits bring them together, but once they become targets, they must now outsmart a killer. In Dark Design by Nancy Mell, when Erin Delaney learns that a serial killer has mimicked the murder portrayed in her best-selling novel, her career as an author takes a detrimental turn. She joins her friend Kaylee Quinn Hunter to help the FBI identify a suspect, but shouldering the weight of a haunted past as the enemy looms closer places Erin's life in the balance. Get all of these books for 30% off and free shipping through bakerbookhouse.com today.